All right, we want to bring in Fox News contributor Ebony Williams, along with Heritage Foundation fellow and Supreme Court vacancy expert Elizabeth Slattery. Good to see you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. Ebony,
Thanks
your thoughts on this constant pushback from the establishment to take down Donald Trump?
Yeah, certainly. This is something that's going to put them definitely in a precarious situation, Maria. So far, though, you know, we have Mitch McConnell saying devoutly there's going to be no consideration whatsoever on this nominee. But at least two Republican senators have already come out and said they indeed are willing to meet with Judge Garland and consider him. You've got Mark Kirk from Illinois, who just so happens to have President Obama's former United States Senate seat, and you've got Susan Collins from Maine, excuse me, rather. So both of those Republicans so far breaking rank. We will see if more will follow.
Elizabeth, I mean, we knew that the Senate was not going to, you know, take any hearing on this going into it, but the president came out with this nominee anyway. What's your take on how this plays out?
Well, the president, you know, he would need at least a dozen or so Republicans to break ranks, and I don't think we're going to see that. The Senate has been firm in saying, the Senate Republicans, that is, have been firm in saying that they're not going to schedule hearings and they're not going to schedule a vote on this nominee.
Yeah, but he's still meeting with people, Dagan. I mean, he's setting up meetings in Washington with senators right now.
The president is trying to set up the Republicans and make them appear to be unreasonable, right, that they won't hold hearings and won't vote on this. And the Wall Street Journal in the editorial page points out today, if you have Republicans who are worried about their seats and they want to vote in a lame duck session, they can just wait until after the election, and if Hillary Clinton wins, then you can vote for this guy. But again, if you go back through his record, he has been very liberal and would likely vote with the liberal justices on the issues before the court, particularly when it comes to the Second Amendment. The Journal looked at that, and then deferring to the administrative powers of, like, the EPA. There's no reason to think that he would not vote with the liberals sitting on the court today.
Yeah, Obama said that he's centrist.
Well, respectfully, though, I mean, there is much respect, and he was approved, let's not forget, in 1997 overwhelmingly by the Senate, 73 to 20-something, so there's certainly been historical precedent for bipartisan support for this judge.
But if you're replacing Justice Antonin Scalia and you're a Republican and you're a conservative sitting in the Senate today, I don't know how that you could vote in favor of this justice and think that he would be a, quote, replacement.
Yeah, it doesn't replace who Antonin Scalia was.
That's right, but also there's not really a mandate, you know, constitutionally, that be the precedent. You don't have to replace ideologically the justice that the vacancy is for.
Well, of course not. Let me throw this out there. You know, Republicans are saying we're push this back until after the election. Trump's the front runner now. Let's say we're looking at President Trump next January. How confident is the establishment that Trump is going to actually nominate candidates that are going to have the GOP platform in their mind in terms of Second Amendment, Roe v. Wade, other issues like that?
Yeah,
Steve pointed out to me earlier that, you know, Trump has said, I'm going to pick a candidate that's like Justice Scalia. How confident is the GOP establishment about that?
Yeah, how confident is the GOP that Trump constitutionally understands the fundamentals of Justice Antonin Scalia? And then the other one is still a risk, right? To your point, you know, that's if Trump wins. Hillary Clinton could win the election, and certainly we can have a great idea as to how liberal a justice she would nominate would be.
What about that, Elizabeth?
I mean, that's definitely a gamble that the Senate Republicans are taking. You know, rather than go with the devil, you know, they're going to wait and see what happens with the election in November. But I think it's important that the American people have a voice in this process by getting to choose the next president.
Yeah, you would think so, given that we're just a few months away from the next election. All right, everybody stay right here. I want to turn to the 2016 campaign and get your take on this, because the establishment leaders are set to meet in Washington, D.C. today to devise a plan to stop Republican frontrunner Donald Trump from getting the nomination. Blake Berman is live in D.C. with all the details on that. Blake, good morning to you.
Hi there, Maria. Good morning to you as well. That's right. As Donald Trump continues his march as the front runner for the Republican nomination, top conservative minds will meet here in Washington later today, trying to figure out some kind of an alternative. That group is being led by the prominent blogger Eric Erickson. He has spoken of a third-party option in recent days, but told Melissa Francis yesterday on After the Bell that's not necessarily the starting point for the meeting.
The first goal isn't a third party. The first goal is to see can everyone wrap around Ted Cruz as the nominee and set aside grievances between people who pick different candidates and see if there's enough movement to try to figure out a way to Cruz and Kasich and figure out a way forward there.
Erickson expects roughly 50 top Republican figures at that meeting. Meantime, Trump has said he thinks a third party coming from the Republican side would lead to a, quote, absolute total victory for Democrats. Trump, as you know, has made the argument, Maria, in the recent days here that he is bringing, he says, millions of new Republicans into the fold this election cycle. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, people are really reacting this morning on Twitter as well. And the question that I asked, ladies, thank you, Blake Berman. The question that I had asked on Twitter is, does the establishment have a tin ear? What do you think, Elizabeth? I mean, we know that Donald Trump is winning. And he continues to gain delegates. And yet this push to take him down just gets stronger.
Well, I think it's interesting that a lot of the exit polls, particularly in Ohio and other states, have shown a number of Democrats have been voting in the GOP primary, and I think we know where their votes are going.
Yeah, they're going, and I want to point out that, and because this comes up, I'm having these conversations with people every day, acquaintances, friends, even family members. The GOP has ignored these voters for 30-some-odd years. You're seeing it in the exit polling that people are angry with the Republican establishment. They want outsiders.
By the way, this is why Trump is winning.
Right, and so I don't know now.
You created it.
So I guess Senator Ted Cruz is also anti-establishment, but again, you have a group of people who are influential thinkers in the conservative movement, but again, they're trying to defy what the voters are telling you that they want. I know that people say that Trump hasn't gotten 50% of the vote, but he's still winning these contests. He's still got way more delegates. Wait until he could still get to 1237.
I think it's almost comical, by the way, that the GOP elites, and listen, I am a diehard conservative Republican, but the fact that the GOP elites think that problem. They're what the voters are revolting against, and they think we can have a secret meeting. It's like it's out of a movie. The 5 families of conservatism are going to get together and solve this and subvert the will of the people. That's ridiculous. The people are angry, and I think they're angry primarily for 2 reasons. One is slow growth, which we need to solve, and they believe that Donald Trump, the businessman, is the man who can solve that, is the leader who can fix that. Secondly, they're sick of political correctness. And I think Trump is speaking so powerfully to regular Americans in flyover country. There's a big country out there between Brooklyn and Brentwood. A lot of the elites don't know that, but those people are voting overwhelmingly for Donald Trump.
I know.
Yes, and even outside of the Republican Party, right, to Dagan's point, lots of Democrats are going over there, and they're considering a Donald Trump because they, too, some of them feel like they've been taken for granted by their establishment base as well. So, you know, he does have a point that I think you have to consider when he talks about his, at least, ability to reach moderate and independent appeal.
Meanwhile, then there's Hillary Clinton, Ebony, right? I mean, I want to get your take on these new revelations this morning in the email scandal. In 2009, the then Secretary of State was denied her request to change the rules over her BlackBerry by the NSA. The NSA basically said, no, you can't use this BlackBerry because it makes you vulnerable.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
so what does she do then? She goes and she gets a server.
I was going to say, Maria, I mean, it's an interesting, I mean, it sounds like a reason possibly, but certainly doesn't excuse what still, you know, we're litigating right now, I guess we'll say, and certainly being considered to be inappropriate, whether it reaches that threshold of gross negligence. That's the real million-dollar question here. I don't think it in any way excuses her choice to go get a private server and operate in a way that really no other Secretary of State did consistently.
She wanted to use a BlackBerry in secure locations, which is prohibited. Period. And these requests came in February of 2009. So she came into this job with all of her people basically trying to defy the rules. Play a different game from everybody else.
Yes.
And I think that that's critically important to think about the timing.
You know, Maria, if I were to tell my employer, just a broker-dealer, that I want to use my own server for work emails and it's going to be in my basement at my home, I would be fired. And I'm not involved in national security.
Because financial services is highly regulated, and they're reading, you know, they've got access to your emails, and they want to see all the transactions, and that's it. That is the way the industry operates.
And
when we're talking about national security, even more so, lives are at risk.
It's a great analysis that you make. You're right.
Yeah.
All right, we will leave it there. Ebony, good to see you. Thank you so much.